The Warrior Cleanse. Keeping you clean so you can live the dream. Commit, transform, thrive. And now your warrior hostess, Diane Kazer.
Hello, I'm Diane Kazer. I'm here today to talk to you about one of the most vital things that you can do for your health, hands down today, which is to improve your digestion. And I know it doesn't sound like the sexiest topic ever, but stay with me, hang with me, and we're going to get to the root of all of this. Because digestion is really the root of disease prevention. It is stated that about 70 to 80% of our immunity exists in our gut. That's crazy because we think that when we get sick, oh, just take some vitamin C, drink some orange juice, and do the conventional old school ways of getting better. While it's true that vitamin C will certainly help you once you get sick, let's talk today about how to prevent getting sick and how to reduce the onset of disease, because it is truly said that digestion and a healthy gut is really truly the key to anti-aging. So first and foremost, I wanted to get into the why of all of this. Specifically with enzymes. It is said that there's about 3,000 different types of enzymes that are responsible for over 7,000 chemical reactions in the body. And so basically, your enzymes are like your little labor workers in your body. So they're a catalyst necessary for things to take place in the body. That's all you need to understand for right now. Specifically today, we're going to talk about digestive enzymes. And when we have lower digestive enzymes, then our body has to steal the enzymes on the other parts of our body for like brain conversion and hormone conversion and keeping our inflammation low and bone turnover and all of those other things, so we start to have all of these other symptoms. So I'll get into the statistics for each one of these specific ones today, but first I wanted to get into the entire digestive tract and take you through the path of digestion. So the first thing I wanted to call your attention to is that we are living in such a fast-paced world today that most of us don't even sit down and connect with our food. We're eating and driving, we're eating and watching TV, we're eating in front of the computer, and we're literally not even registering that we're eating food. So what happens then is that if we're eating so quickly that our body can't register, it needs to release digestive enzymes to break down the food and hydrochloric acid and things of that nature, then our body is going to be in a fight or flight state. All of these systems will be reduced and basically almost nearly turned off. So really, these workers can't go to work for us if we've got so much stress and we're running around so crazy. So the first thing is, when we eat, chew more, because statistics show that we will actually eat less. Why? Well, because most Americans take like 4 to 5 chews per bite. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. I watch people all the time. We should be chewing like 24, 25 times for each bite, and that food should turn into liquid before it even gets swallowed. So that's food for thought right there. That's where 75% or so of our carbohydrates are actually digested in the mouth. So that's where digestion takes place first. And then it goes down to the stomach and hydrochloric acid kicks in. And then these enzymes are released from the pancreas. So basically when we have enough hydrochloric acid in the stomach, basically the HCl sends a text message over to the pancreas and says, hey, release some digestive enzymes into the small intestine, where 90% or so of our absorption from food takes place. Key that I want you to remember today is that we consume food, and we absorb the nutrients from the food. So we don't get energy from food, we get energy from the absorption of the nutrients once we're able to break down, assimilate, and absorb the food and what it has to offer. So once the food gets into the stomach, this is where hydrochloric acid exists. And typically our stomach is going to be about a 1 or 2 as far as pH. For a lot of people today, they're getting closer to 4 or 5, and this is where we're starting to have a lot of problems. So why is hydrochloric acid changing? Why is it decreasing in the stomach? And I'm going to go through each one of these 5 questions for each one of these hydrochloric acid, enzymes, and probiotics, the pluses and the negatives for each one of them. So why is our hydrochloric acid reduced today? Well, first and foremost, we've got a lot of people taking PPIs, proton pump inhibitors. And what that does is it dims the switch of hydrochloric acid release in the stomach. And once we have less hydrochloric acid, then we can't break down, most of it is, fibrous things like meat. We can't break down these foods into individual amino acids, and then those amino acids go into neurotransmitters that tell us how to feel and how to think. and what kind of mood to be in. So a lot of us today, we're seeing depression and anxiety so rampant today. So the reason why it's decreasing is, first of all, we're taking over-the-counters, we're taking a lot of prescription medications, and all sorts of other things, chemicals that we're inhaling, a lot of stress. A lot of stress is turning this off, because when we're in a fight or flight situation, when we have chronic stress in our lives, internally and externally, then all of these systems, like I said, get turned off. And not turned all the way off, but turned down, I should say. So that's some of the reasons. Also, birth control, other prescriptions, it really reduces those. Coffee is another thing that reduces it. Sorry, guys. 90% of foods that we buy in the grocery store today is processed food. And when we're not eating real food that's not rich in enzymes and the necessary building blocks to break down the foods, we're having to borrow it from other parts of the body, and our body is getting overly taxed. So that's one of the reasons why. And then all of the chemicals that we're exposed to. That's the environmental external stresses, personal care products we put on our skin, the chemicals that we're eating, the pesticides in food, genetically modified organisms, all the sorts of things, the buzzwords that you're hearing today. Chemicals that are not intended to be consumed by the human body. The statistics of HCl, they range. There's a lot of studies that have been done, and some of these people are saying that the people who are on PPIs, about half of them actually shouldn't be on PPIs, because they're reducing HCl to the point that they can't even break down their food. And those numbers can be as high as 95, I've even seen as high as 98%, that we actually suffer from hypochloremia, not enough acid, as opposed to too much acid. And so what's happening there is typically that the GERD and the acid reflux that we're experiencing is that it's the gas and the bloating and the belching and that sensation and the acid that's traveling up into the esophagus. And we assume that it's too much acid. It's just acid in the wrong place, and sometimes people actually have ulcers and things like that. That's one not to take HCl, and I'll get into that in a minute. Natural ways to get HCl into your body is apple cider vinegar is one of them. Eating some bitters is another one. But ACV is a natural thing that you can try at home to see if you have enough HCl. If you drink apple cider vinegar and you find things are improving with your digestion, then you know that you need more HCl. And just stop when you feel burning. And that's how to test this, to see what dose you need with HCl. So that's one thing that you can do for natural. When not to take HCl or to drink apple cider vinegar is if you have things like H. pylori, or if you have ulcers like I mentioned, or if you have any kind of chronic itis in the gut. Those are things where you would definitely not want to take HCl, or you would want to consult your doctor, because I'm not a doctor. And there are several other reasons too. And then the quality of HCl is critical. So we've got in several different lines, HCl has different things. So you definitely want to make sure that your HCl supplement has something called pepsin in it, because that helps the conversion, so that you have acid readily available to break down the amino acids into neurotransmitters and start the digestive process to send the text message to the pancreas to release digestive enzymes, so that we can assimilate the nutrients from the food and take part in all these rich foods that we're eating has to offer. So let's get into this is where negative. These are the symptoms of not having enough HCl, is that you have gas and bloating. So there's basically the three B's, and so that would be belching, that would be bloating, and that would be burning. So you've got bloating, belching, and then GERD and acid reflux is burning. And then I call it lazy food. So basically when you eat food, it feels like it's just sitting there. It's like sitting in your stomach, it's not really moving. You might take 3 bites and you're like, oh, I feel so full. I hear this all the time, and people stop eating, and that's because they don't have enough HCl to break down their foods, and then they don't get enough nourishment because they're not eating as many foods, because it feels like literally your suitcase is stuffed. There's so much food in your stomach, it's not getting absorbed or digested and then absorbed. And then bowel actions. So you might have increased diarrhea or increased constipation. I call that marathon stool, or I call that lazy stool. So you've got like marathon stool where it's like diarrhea, or you've got lazy stool where you got constipation. So those are some of the symptoms. If you have enough HCl, which most Americans don't today, and this is why we're talking about this today, you've got a flat tummy because you're not distended anymore. I see stomach swelling a lot in my practice. Elevated mood, so when we're able to convert proteins into amino acids, into neurotransmitters, you have dopamine and serotonin and things that make us happy, right? happy digestion. So the whole process starts with chewing, and then that tells the stomach to release hydrochloric acid. So happy digestion because all the systems are working top down. If you don't have HCl in order, then the entire rest of the digestive system can't work and can't operate as effectively. So HCl is critical. A lot of people make the mistake of starting to take enzymes or probiotics, but they skip the step of HCl, and so that's something that I want to call your attention to. Number one step is HCl. That's a precursor to the whole thing. So that's the first floor of the building. Got to make sure you start there. Don't start building the windows until you have the foundation. And then also HCl, this is huge, 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 is that it kills bad guys. So we're eating a lot of foods these days. It's really unfortunate these days that because a lot of the vegetables and a lot of the fruits that we're consuming, they're rich in enzymes, but a lot of time they've got like genetically modified organisms or pesticides on them. So if we're eating those foods without washing them sufficiently, if we're eating out, or if we're eating non-grass-fed beef or meat that doesn't have that has a lot of hormones, antibiotics, pathogens like candida, yeast, parasites are huge, bacteria like E. coli and meats. If we consume those things, because we are eating, like I said, 90% non-foods, like processed foods, then if we don't have enough HCl, it can't neutralize the bad guys, and then we have gut infections, and we have all sorts of problems like autoimmunity and cancer and things of that nature. So the main idea with HCl is that it prevents bad bacteria overgrowth. I see this so commonly in my practice that people are infested with all sorts of things. It is said that 90% of us have digestion issues throughout the year, at least one time, and that, I've seen a lot of statistics, but like 75-85% of us have a candida overgrowth, which is yeast, or a pathogenic overgrowth of parasites. So if we don't have enough HCl, it can't kill the bad guys, and the bad guys travel down south into the small intestine and make us look bloated.
This message is brought to you by Kazer Wellness. Live like a warrior.